How did the people approve the new Constitution? Why did the framers want the people to ratify the Constitution? The framers did not believe they had created a perfect plan of government. 4 months they spent creating the Constitution had been filled with disagreements. A few delegates had walked out of the convention. Some delegates refused to sign the Constitution. The great majority of the framers, however, thought they had done a good job. After creating the Constitution, the framers knew that they had to get it approved. James Madison was afraid the Constitution would be rejected if either the Congress or the state legislatures were asked to ratify it. To ratify means to approve. To avoid rejection, Madison developed a plan. His plan was to get the voters to ratify the Constitution at special conventions to be held in each state. Delegates to these conventions would be elected by popular vote of the people for the sole purpose of approving the Constitution. Madison based his plan on the idea in the preamble to the Constitution. The first words in the preamble are, "We the people do ordain and establish this Constitution." The people who were to be governed by the new national government would consent to its creation, to agree to obey its decisions. This was the method for establishing a government set forth in the natural rights philosophy and in the Declaration of Independence. Thus, framers used the idea of a social contract to get the Constitution approved. It was to be approved by an agreement among the people to create a national government. The framers approved Madison's plan. Article 7 said that the Constitution would be in effect after it had been ratified by the conventions of 9 of the 13 states. The framers required approval of the voters of 9 states because they were afraid they would not get the approval of all 13. Who were the Federalists and Anti-Federalists? Once the Philadelphia Convention ended, the Federalists went to work. The Federalists were the people who supported ratifying the Constitution. The Federalists asked the states to organize their ratifying conventions as quickly as possible. They knew their opponents had not had much time to prepare their arguments. By contrast, the supporters of the Constitution had worked on it for 4 months. They knew the arguments for and against it. To explain the new Constitution to the people, Alexander Hamilton James Madison, and John Jay wrote a series of articles for a New York newspaper supporting ratification. These collected articles are called the Federalist. The Federalist was read in other states as well. Today, the Federalist remains one of the most important explanations of constitutional government ever written. The Anti-Federalists were the people who opposed ratifying the Constitution. Anti-Federalist leaders included George Mason, Edmund Randolph, and Elbridge Gerry. Each had attended the Philadelphia Convention but refused to sign the Constitution. Although John Hancock, Samuel Adams, and Richard Henry Lee had all signed the Declaration of Independence, they too were against ratification. Patrick Henry had always opposed the idea of a strong national government. Henry became a leading anti-federalist. Mercy Otis Warren, a playwright, also was against ratification. She wrote pamphlets explaining why she did not support the Constitution. Most Americans were very suspicious of government, but the Anti-Federalists were especially mistrustful of government in general and strong national government in particular. This mistrust was the basis of their opposition to the Constitution. They feared it had created a government the people could not control. The Anti-Federalists feared the flaws they saw in the Constitution would be a threat to their natural rights. During the ratification debates, the Anti-Federalists put up a strong fight. What issues to the new Constitution did the people debate? The debates in the states lasted 10 months. It was an intense and sometimes bitter political struggle. Both Federalists and Anti-Federalists made many arguments for and against the Constitution. However, the most intense arguments were about 3 basic issues: whether the Constitution would maintain a republican government, whether the national government would have too much power, and whether a Bill of Rights was needed in the Constitution. Why did the Federalists agree to add a Bill of Rights to the Constitution? A compromise was reached on the issue of a Bill of Rights. The Federalists made this compromise to get enough support for the Constitution so that it would be ratified. They agreed that when the first Congress was held, it would draft a Bill of Rights. The argument to add a Bill of Rights was a victory for the Anti-Federalists. It was an important addition to the Constitution and has been of great importance in the protection of the basic rights of Americans.